Hey, good morning, everyone. How's it going? Already getting my Sunday morning started here. Boy, a lot of fights and stuff were going on last night across the country, around the world. A lot of people I knew was fighting. Congratulations to everybody. I just wanted to, give a tribute to Mr. Marvin and Hagler. Okay, it's weird. It's weird because you don't know these people personally. I've never had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Hagler, but clearly as a kid, what I did was, I admired him and watched his training ethic, and it was amazing. It's absolutely amazing, right? He was such an inspiration to me. As a kid, and again, I wasn't a boxer, I was a kickboxer. And, but in kickboxing, you have to have good hands. So you look for people who can inspire you, and kind of teach you. And, the other thing too is that, I was from a small town, right? A real small town, Dillon, South Carolina. And there was no boxing around there. There was no one to look up to in the boxing world other than what we saw on TV, Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran, those great legendary fighters, and Marvin Hagler. And just some of the fights I saw, and I think what he was, and I will say this too, as an African-American man, seeing him and what he did, and he always seemed like a class act to me. Again, I didn't know him personally, but he taught me how to, at the press conferences, for the most part, he was respectful to his opponents. He was, he was no chump. I'm telling you now, he was a tough dude. He had, but he taught you how to have humility and be respectful. But then when he went into the gym, he was like a beast. I mean, he's just transformed. And let me talk about in the gym for a moment. Another thing that I admired about him was his conditioning, right? His conditioning was like on another planet, right? This guy trained, you watch him jump rope, you see his abs, he was just the ultimate professional, right? And again, as a kid, looking for somebody to look up to, he was certainly one of those that I said, oh my gosh, look at this guy, look at the way he's training. They would have these little shoulder things on him running, and he would be punching and running. I kind of picked up that cadence from he and Sugar Ray Leonard, picked up that cadence of running, because that's not easy to do, fighters, when you run, is to learn how to work your shoulders and keep your footwork and everything working, you're moving. He was great at that. If you don't think I'm joking, look at some of the videos that he did when he was running and punching. And then try that. It is very difficult to do. But I looked at him and I looked at his tapes over and over again. I remember he had a lot of great fights. I don't think he was ever in a bad fight. I'll be honest with you. I don't think the great Hagler was in a bad fight. But I remember when he fought this guy, a couple of them. One was John the Beast Mugambi. Now, I don't know if you guys remember this guy, but I don't remember his record. But this guy was like I'm going to guess right now, 20-0 with 20 knockouts. I mean, it was like crazy, right? He was knocking everybody out. And so they kept building it up. Everybody was scared for Hagler even in that fight. And Hagler goes in that fight. It was a great fight, toe-to-toe. And boy, he was landing some great shots. But Hagler wore him down. Hagler kind of took him into deep water and knocked him out. And everybody was like, oh my God. And I mean, it was just an amazing, fight. And this shows his tenacity, right? And then everybody, so many in the boxing world back then, and we're a little bit older, he fought Thomas Hearns. That was a big, huge build-up to that fight. And Thomas was a killer, man. Thomas Hearns, he was like 6'2", 6'3", and Hagler was a little bit shorter in stature. And Hagler and Hearns had these sharp, boom, like sharp punches, long long, but when he hits you, you know, he cuts you. He's like a cutter kind of puncher, if you kind of know what that means. He was sharp, and he was very well timed. So early on, he cut Hagler in that fight. And it was like Hagler lost his brains in that corner. And I know if anybody saw that fight, Hagler came out and they were telling him, hey, you had a bad cut and everything. And I think the doctor looked at it and Hagler was like, hey, I got to go. And this guy turned it on like crazy, right? And he goes out there and he turned it really the whole fight was a street fight. But in that last round, probably some of the greatest rounds in boxing. If you want to call it boxing, it was boxing. It's like a street fight. Hagler turned it on, man, and I'll give it to Hearns. Hearns hung in there as long as he could, but Hagler just went in beast mode, and he knocked him out in the third. One of the greatest fights, I think, that in the history of boxing. I'm sure there are a lot, but that was certainly one. When he fought Sugar Ray Leonard, you know, he was more so at the end of his career. But he was still great. And a lot of people still debate on that fight right now, whether or not Sugar Ray actually won that fight. It was a really close fight. I think on points, I think you can give it to Sugar Ray, but Hagler was certainly in the fight. But, you know, people have their opinions, and they're always going to argue that, you know. I was a Sugar Ray fan as well, obviously. Because of the way Sugar Ray fought, you know, that was more, because, you know, let's be honest, the way Hagler fought, he stuck his head in there, he put his head in your chest, and he did not let up. Well, I wasn't all about getting my face like, and he came out pretty good, but me, I didn't want to take those kind of punches. That's what I'm saying, the courage.